one person can't change the world, but one person carrying a message can change the world. That's what I think is going on now. I think a lot of young people are realizing that their voice is ready to be heard.
What does it mean to face the end with unwavering calm after a lifetime of pain, heartbreak, and loss? At 92, Willie Nelson speaks openly about fears many avoid, revealing a brutal acceptance shaped by losses no one should endure. From burying his son to battling financial ruin and chronic illness, he has endured it all. Yet what he reveals now about mortality may change how we all see life's final chapter. How does a man who once lay down in the street, hoping for escape, find peace with death? Early life and abandonment. Willie Nelson's story begins in the dust and desperation of Depression-era Texas, a place and time that would shape much of the man he became. Born on April 29, 1933 in Abbott, Texas, Willie's earliest years were marked not by comfort, but by hardship. The world seemed intent on teaching him from the start that nothing lasts forever. At just 6 years old, he watched his mother walk away, leaving him and his sister with their grandparents under a promise that better times would bring her back. Those better times never arrived. His father remarried and moved on, leaving young Willie to wrestle with feelings of rejection and abandonment. Questions about why he wasn't enough to keep his parents around haunted him deeply. These wounds never fully healed, quietly shaping the resilience and guarded independence that defined much of his life and music. The pain was real and raw, yet it planted seeds of self-reliance and emotional depth. Raised primarily by his grandparents, William and Nancy Smothers, Willie found some stability, but never lost the ache of being left behind. Nancy taught him music, while William gifted him his first guitar at the age of 6, planting the earliest roots of what would become a legendary career. But even in the warmth of their care, the question lingered. Why had the people who were supposed to love him most abandoned him? Summers found Willie working alongside migrant cotton pickers under an unforgiving Texas sun, his small hands blistering as he joined in grueling labor, far too much for a child. The back-breaking work could have crushed a lesser spirit, but for Willie, it was a harsh education in endurance and determination. These early lessons in pain and perseverance became inseparable from his identity. By age 7, music became his refuge. Writing his first rudimentary song, he discovered a way to give voice to feelings he couldn't otherwise express. Joining a band at 10, Willie tasted acceptance on stage, a brief escape from the scars of abandonment. The crowd's applause offered a temporary balm, proving that here, at least, he mattered. Yet even as music offered hope, the shadows of his childhood remained. Willie learned early that people leave and promises break, forging a cautious approach to trust and attachment. One of the family rules he lived by was never to become overly dependent, because losing what you cling to could become a prison of its own. This wisdom was etched by pain, carved into the man who would later sing of heartbreak and freedom. Despite knowing he wasn't the best singer or guitarist, Willie embraced his craft with humble determination. He accepted the limitations of his talent, but believed his voice and story had a place in the world. This self-awareness and honesty would become a hallmark of his authenticity and appeal. Even as music gave Willie an outlet, the personal challenges surrounding family and love brought new heartbreak that shaped his life's course. Struggles with family and loss. Willie's early marriage to Martha Matthews promised a fresh chapter filled with hope and stability. They built a home filled with laughter and raised 3 children, Lana, Susie, and Billy, nestled amid Willie's dreams of success in Nashville, the heart of country music. Behind closed doors, however, the reality was far grimmer. Despite writing songs that would become classics, Willie struggled to keep food on the table and often found himself crashing on friends' couches. The tension between dreams and daily survival became a wedge in the marriage. Martha grew weary of constant financial strain and the relentless uncertainty. What began as gentle disagreements soon escalated into harsh resentments, with Willie returning from auditions and gigs to face unspoken disappointment and quiet frustration. The weight of these struggles pressed hard on his spirit. Caught in the cycle of frustration and self-doubt, Willie turned more frequently to whiskey and cigarettes. The man who could move crowds with song was drowning in his own insecurity. Martha's growing disappointment mirrored the failures he felt inside, deepening the emotional rift between them. Something precious was breaking. One particularly cold winter night marked a crushing low. Rejection letters piled up, unpaid bills loomed, and Willie, overwhelmed by despair, stumbled into the freezing Nashville streets, so inebriated he barely stood. In a desperate moment, he laid down in the middle of the road, hoping for relief to come in headlights. Yet that relief never arrived. Cars swerved but spared him, forcing him to confront his pain rather than escape it. The homecoming of Willie from his injuries brought him demands which provided no comfort. The love-filled statements of Martha became weapons which she used to demonstrate his shortcomings and terminate their marital relationship. The relationship between two people changed into a destructive force which caused injuries that music could not mend. The intense suffering he experienced reached a level which exceeded what the public would ever perceive. Willie felt his strongest emotional disturbance from the death of his firstborn child Billy, who died years after his other losses, which included material possessions and personal relationships. When Billy died by self-harm at age 33 on December 25, 1991, Willie's entire life collapsed as he learned of the news. The burden of being Willie Nelson's son became unbearable for him, which led to his fight against problems that music could not resolve. Willie and his family experienced Billy's depression symptoms as a secret battle which they could not comprehend or stop. The plans to record a gospel album together only underscored the fragile hope that had once existed between father and son. Willie experienced an emotional loss when his hope for the future vanished, because it also meant that a portion of his heart disappeared. The funeral procession created a painful experience which involved both soft-spoken exchanges and speculations about alternate scenarios. Willie experienced all the events again while he tried to contact Billy through every chance which he missed, because his sadness prevented him from finding relief through any musical performance. Bobby, his sister, who traveled through life with him on stage, witnessed his brother's collapse into an unfamiliar state, which created a new bond between them through their silent mourning. The devastation of family loss was soon compounded by a financial crisis that threatened to erase everything Willie had built. Financial ruin and IRS battle. While Willie grappled with unimaginable personal loss, another catastrophe unfolded quietly, but with startling consequences. In 1990, just a year before Billy's death, the Internal Revenue Service descended on Willie's properties with seizure notices demanding an astonishing $32 million in unpaid taxes. This staggering debt was among the largest tax bills in American history, and for Willie, it felt like a final blow from a world that had taken so much already. Unbeknownst to Willie, his business managers had mismanaged his finances for years. They made questionable investments, failed to pay taxes owed, and left him vulnerable to the government's wrath. One moment, he was a celebrated musician, and the next, his legacy was on the chopping block. Everything he owned, gold records, his cherished piano, his Texas ranch, was seized mercilessly, reducing a cultural icon to a debtor facing total ruin. Friends and advisors urged Willie to take the easy, legal route and declare bankruptcy. It was a sensible option, saving his future income from the claws of the IRS, but Willie refused that path, revealing a core principle that defined the man throughout his life. He vowed to pay every penny of what he owed, no matter how long it took, respecting those he had indebted rather than walking away. The IRS tapes, "Who Will Buy My Memories?" was released by Willie as his solution to his unmanageable debt problem. He donated all revenue to the government while he sold his personal and professional collection of items. He went on an extensive tour, which included performances at small venues and county fairs and all available shows. The man who sang about freedom became trapped in his debt, which created an ironic situation for him. Willie paid for every concert through his earnings, which he sent to Washington, but the total amount due stayed mostly unchanged. The battle against his challenges showed Willie what life event will teach him to stop caring about things that do not matter. His material possessions disappeared, everything about him was lost, except for his musical talent and inner self, which remained protected against tax liens and auction sales. Willie achieved complete debt repayment by 1993 through his unwavering dedication to work. The experience created a lasting impact because it demonstrated how easily people can lose everything they have obtained. People use their possessions and money as security, but they also use their success and their basic existence to create stability in their lives. Willie discovered through his financial collapse and personal tragedies that survival depends on letting things go instead of grasping them. The man who lost everything after burying his son found freedom through letting go of things instead of fighting against them. He developed his understanding of existence through these experiences, which also helped him understand loss and death. His battles with family and finances were hard-fought, but they set the stage for the defiant, outspoken spirit Willie Nelson would become, unafraid to speak his truth in a world that often demanded silence. Political and social stances. Willie Nelson's music wasn't just about melodies and lyrics. It was a platform for outspoken convictions that often put him at odds with the country music establishment and its fans. In an industry known for playing it safe and courting conservative audiences, Willie broke the mold by fearlessly voicing progressive views on politics, social justice, and human rights. His willingness to stand firm on these issues cost him radio play, record sales, and even alienated some longtime fans, but his integrity remained unshaken. One of his most memorable acts of defiance came during a Texas concert in the late 1960s, when Willie kissed country singer Charlie Pride on the lips, a bold statement against the racial segregation so deeply embedded in country music culture. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Radio stations blacklisted his records. Venues canceled bookings, and hate mail flooded in. Yet Willie refused to apologize or retreat, reinforcing his belief that friendship and respect transcend race, and that music should be free of prejudice. As the years passed, Willie's activism grew more pronounced. He openly supported liberal political candidates like Dennis Kucinich and Bernie Sanders, played benefit concerts for democratic causes, and voiced opposition to the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. These stances alienated a segment of his conservative audience, many of whom felt betrayed by what they saw as a departure from country values. But for Willie, these positions were extensions of the values instilled in him by his grandparents, standing up for the underdog and speaking truth to power. Perhaps no issue defined Willie's activism more than his decades-long fight for marijuana legalization. Long before legalization became mainstream, Willie embraced cannabis openly, discussing its benefits and advocating for its decriminalization. His arrests for possession and legal battles only strengthened his resolve. The legend of him lighting a joint on the White House roof during Jimmy Carter's administration has become a cultural touchstone, symbolizing his fearless authenticity. The year 2006 saw Willie perform his song, "Cowboys Are Frequently Secretly Fond of Each Other," which combines playful elements with provocative content to disprove hyper-masculine stereotypes while supporting LGBTQ themes that existed before those themes achieved widespread recognition. The song generated strong negative reactions from traditional country listeners, who subsequently boycotted the song, and country radio stations refused to broadcast it. Willie considered the track a tool for showing his love for people, while he used it to make fun of bigoted beliefs. The 2018 song "Vote Them Out," which Willie released during an election season, created political disputes because it attacked the current government. The song urged Americans to use their voting power to initiate change, which created a political divide among listeners. Some fans reacted by burning his records, while others showed admiration for his bravery. According to the message, Willie preferred to speak the truth instead of gaining public approval because he believed that principles and integrity should guide his actions even when he had to face isolation. Willie demonstrated two brave positions which demonstrated his understanding that some values exist beyond the need for social acceptance or financial benefits. He realized that remaining silent about injustice constitutes a betrayal. While he believed his musical work should bring about fundamental societal transformations instead of just providing entertainment, Willie's unyielding dedication to his work propelled him to become more than just a performer because he dedicated himself to advancing social justice causes. Willie's public statements created two important effects because they defined his public identity and created specific attitudes which determined his chances of career development and his connections with fans. Through all the controversy, Willie maintained his focus on what mattered most. His truth served as the foundation for his legacy, which he built by defying expectations and showing his true self. Willie's political courage and outspoken nature gave way to more intimate struggles with his health, especially the lungs that carried his voice through decades of music. Health battles and lung issues. For a man whose life was forged in persistence, Willie Nelson's battle with his health became one of his most challenging fights yet. Though he credited smoking marijuana with saving his life on many occasions, the very habit that defined part of his image and comfort was also slowly damaging his lungs. The fragile balance between the joys and dangers of his lifestyle created an ongoing struggle that would come to define his later years. In 1981, while on what should have been a peaceful family vacation in Maui, Willie's health took a sudden, frightening turn. His left lung collapsed unexpectedly, causing excruciating pain and an urgent hospital stay. This event marked the beginning of a long-term decline in his respiratory health, setting him on a difficult path filled with setbacks and uncertainty. Years of cigarette and marijuana smoking had taken a heavy toll. Willie developed emphysema, a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease that made every breath a challenge. The man who once performed for hours found himself gasping for air, just crossing a room. Recurring bouts of pneumonia left him increasingly frail, each episode further weakening the lungs that had carried his voice to millions. Friends and family watched helplessly as his stamina dwindled. His powerful singing voice began losing strength, and his once boundless energy faded. The vibrant performer many adored was becoming a shadow of his former self, locked in a daily battle just to breathe. By 2015, Willie made a brave and dramatic decision to undergo experimental stem cell surgery. Doctors harvested stem cells from other parts of his body and injected them into his damaged lungs, hoping to regenerate tissue and restore breathing capacity. The extensive recovery required canceling tours, disappointing fans, and casting uncertainty over his performing future. The surgery carried no guarantees, but it was a necessary gamble. Physicians warned that without intervention, Willie's time on stage could be severely limited. The long road of healing became a testament to his determination to keep making music on his own terms, regardless of the physical cost. In 2022, nearing 90 years of age, Willie faced his most terrifying health challenge yet, contracting COVID-19. For a man with compromised lungs, the virus posed a life-threatening risk. His wife, Annie D'Angelo, turned their home into a round-the-clock care center, employing every treatment available and monitoring him relentlessly as he battled for every breath. Those days were filled with uncertainty and fear. Willie's body weakened and his strength ebbed, but his natural toughness prevailed. Slowly, he pulled through a fight that many feared might be his last, emerging profoundly changed by the confrontation with his own mortality. The physical challenges Willie endured could never be separated from the losses he suffered within his closest circle, friends and brothers whose deaths would bring new perspectives on survival and legacy. The Highwaymen and brotherhood loss. Willie Nelson's life has been marked not only by personal struggle, but also by profound friendships that shaped the outlaw country movement. Among those closest to him were the members of the Highwaymen, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and Chris Christopherson, four giants who forged a brotherhood both on and off the stage. They shared music, tours, and a rebellious spirit that united them in a way few could understand. But as time passed, that brotherhood was slowly whittled away by illness and death. Johnny Cash, known as the Man in Black, was the first to fall in 2003. Willie watched helplessly as his friend succumbed to diabetes and respiratory failure. Cash's final performances were painful to witness. His voice weakened, flesh fading, yet his spirit remained unbroken until the very end. That loss carved an emptiness not easily filled, a reminder of mortality's inescapable grip, even for towering legends. Waylon Jennings followed in 2002, struck down by diabetes-related complications. He had been Willie's closest confidant among the group, a kindred spirit whose life reflected the price of living on the edge. Waylon's death was more than losing a bandmate. It was losing a brother in arms, someone who truly understood the outlaw lifestyle and its burdens. Their shared history crystallized into a memory that both sustained and haunted Willie. The most recent blow came in September 2024 with the passing of Chris Christopherson at age 88. Chris had been the youngest and often seen as the poetic soul of the group, a songwriter whose craft transformed pain into art. Willie found himself attending yet another funeral, facing the staggering reality that he was now the last surviving Highwayman. The weight of that solitude is complex, both a heavy burden and a solemn honor. Losing this brotherhood taught Willie that survival is less about triumph and more about enduring the repeated farewells life demands. Being the last one standing isn't a victory parade, it's a quiet reckoning with loss and legacy. Every death was a stark reminder of his own finite time, a preview of the inevitable farewell that looms for all. The losses which Willie experienced brought him a deeper understanding of how people maintain dignity when they leave this world. The Highwaymen members confronted their deaths according to their personal beliefs, which included different degrees of bravery and acceptance toward their impending demise. They embraced their death as a natural element which exists within the cycle of life. The ability to maintain grace during all concluding moments represents a critical life lesson which Willie learned. Cash continued to perform until his last moment of life, while Jennings remained dedicated to creating music through his suffering, and Christopherson dedicated himself to artistic work until his final breath. Their unswerving loyalty proved that they lived their best lives, yet their approaching death served as a source of motivation, which brought Willie to his current understanding of growing old and facing death. Willie gained unique insight through his role as the final Highwayman, which enabled him to understand death at a deeper level. He discovered that death occurs through a series of events which continue to happen until the moment finally arrives for you to experience your own death. Through the experience of perpetual loss, he learned to control his fear because he discovered that both his upcoming anxiety and his current dread produce stronger pain than actual death. That clarity about mortality leads to Willie's most candid reflections on death, suffering, and the lessons earned over decades of living and losing. Mortality acceptance and final reflections. Willie Nelson's relationship with death is neither fearful nor morbid. It's practical and born from a lifetime of intimate encounters with loss and dying. Having faced crushing heartbreaks, grave illnesses, and the deaths of those closest to him, Willie has come to see death as the natural conclusion to a life fully lived. His brutal honesty about mortality offers rare insight into what it means to live with the knowledge that life's final verse is always approaching. In conversations about death, Willie doesn't flinch or retreat. He describes the process as less dramatic than imagined, sometimes simply a matter of running out of breath. This perspective emerged vividly after his recent struggles with lung disease and a near-fatal battle with COVID-19. Experiencing the gradual shutdown of his body reshaped his fears, replacing them with a calm acceptance few ever reach. Willie often points out that we're all human, sharing the same vulnerabilities and emotional triggers. What makes one person smile or cry is likely to touch others the same way. This universality forms the foundation of his understanding of life and death. That connection and shared humanity are what endure beyond flesh and time. Through his long career and personal trials, Willie learned that suffering, not death itself, is the true enemy. Clinging desperately to life or material things breeds pain, while acceptance brings a kind of freedom. Having lost his son, his fortune, and most of his strength, he has found peace in letting go rather than fighting. Instead of viewing death as failure, Willie sees it as a passage, one more change in a life defined by transformation. The man who once laid down in a Nashville street, hoping for escape, now greets death with quiet certainty, not because he desires it, but because he is no longer afraid. This acceptance conveys a unique courage, the bravery of living fully while knowing the end is near. The sincere declaration from Willie about his desire to finish the journey shows his acquisition of wisdom through his extensive life experiences. He recognizes that all things we value, including money and fame and life itself, exist only for a limited time, and that our attempts to oppose this reality lead to unnecessary distress. Through his understanding of mortality, he gains the ability to value everlasting aspects of life, such as music and love and everlasting relationships. His legacy extends beyond his musical creations to include the people he affected and the knowledge he passed on. His ongoing touring and recording activities transform each concert into a potential farewell, while every song he performs becomes a gift to his audience. His current artistic work contains emotional depth, which stems from his awareness of life's transient beauty, which he uses to create performances that honor its temporary nature. Willie demonstrates to us that true bravery exists when people choose to live their lives to the fullest, instead of seeking to escape death. His bravery originates from his extensive experience with death and his determination to create artistic works that endure beyond human existence. The narrative of his life challenges all people to discover their true selves through courageous actions, which they should maintain even when they must face the unavoidable. When life teaches us to say goodbye, it also teaches us how to live fully until then. Legacy and enduring spirit. Willie Nelson's journey through heartbreak, loss, and survival has sculpted a legacy that transcends music and stretches into the very heart of American culture. At 92, he stands not only as a country music icon, but also as a custodian of a generation's stories, struggles, and spirit. The red-headed stranger who once began life in hardship now carries the weight and honor of a living history, a testament to resilience and authenticity that influences artists and fans alike. His music remains timeless, weaving tales of pain and joy, rebellion and redemption. Songs that once challenged norms have become classics, crossing generational divides and reminding listeners that life's truths are universal. Willie's voice, though showing signs of age, still carries the emotional power of someone who has lived deeply and honestly. This connection between artist and audience is the core of his enduring impact. Beyond music, Willie's legacy is also marked by his unwavering independence and courage. He refused to conform to industry demands or silence his convictions, choosing truth over popularity and integrity over commercial gain. This defiance earned him enemies, but also a devoted following that admires not just the music, but the man himself. His life story is an example of staying true to oneself amid pressure to compromise. Willie has used his platform to support causes close to his heart, from social justice to environmentalism and cannabis legalization, showing that artists can be voices for change without losing their artistic soul. His activism, controversial to some, is regarded by many others as a moral compass in an ever-changing world. This role amplifies his influence beyond the stage and studio, into the realm of cultural leadership. The musician uses his mentoring work to teach young artists about fundamental musical traditions while they develop their personal artistic identity. The artist will achieve lasting musical impact through his various musical partnerships and his dedication to exploring new styles and his ongoing musical growth. Through his actions, the musician demonstrates that a person's legacy continues through their created works, which others will experience after their passing. Willie maintains a stable mental state despite approaching death. Willie's life experiences have taught him that everything in life is temporary, which enables him to concentrate on what will last forever: music and love, and relationships that remain after death. His legacy functions to enhance all things that exist before death arrives. The statement teaches about how important it is to be mindful and show appreciation for the present moment. He carries the voices of his fallen friends and family with every note he sings, turning performances into acts of remembrance and celebration. The musician considers his position as the last highwayman to be a sacred obligation which strengthens his determination to preserve both the music and the historical legacy. Willie believes that people create their permanent legacy through what they remember about their life accomplishments. His continuous work in music through live performances and recording sessions shows that he refuses to stop working, but he also finds happiness in doing so. The artist uses his songs to create special moments which become valuable gifts for both himself and his listeners. The way he lives his life motivates everyone who observes him, because he demonstrates that people can discover their true purpose and their inner peace through their last days on Earth. Willie Nelson's life teaches us that courage is found in acceptance, and legacy grows from honesty and resilience. His journey shows that even in the face of loss and mortality, the human spirit can endure and inspire. If Willie's story moved you, please like this video and subscribe for more compelling tales of true courage and life lived fully. Thank you for watching.